Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different. So it's not a yoga class today, as you can see. I really wanted to sit and have a chat with you guys about eating disorders and my experience and some figures that I read recently, some statistics that are really worrying to me, and maybe we can come up with some ways around this together. So firstly, I just want to say again, as everyone knows, eating disorders don't discriminate. There is no typical race, gender, you're rich or poor, where you come from in the world. It doesn't discriminate. It can literally happen to anybody. And so many people have an eating disorder and they don't talk about it. They don't even acknowledge that they have one because maybe they don't typically look like what they have in their head as someone who has an eating disorder. And when we think of eating disorders, we typically think of anorexia or bulimia, but typically look-wise, anorexia, or maybe someone who's extremely heavy. So two extremes. And what we know is that there's currently 8 different diagnosable eating disorders, and only one of them meets the criteria for weight related. And all of these disorders kill. Absolutely all of them. And we're seeing figures across the world that are related to this. So I think it was 2012 in America, there was 34,000 people that died of breast cancer. But in that same year, there was 300,000 people that died from an eating disorder. I don't know about you, but that was a shock to me. It was astonishing. And in Australia, 2011, the annual road death toll was outweighed by people who died from an eating disorder. I don't currently have the figures, but again, I was massively shocked. At this present time, I think actually this was taken last year, there is 200,000 people in our country, in Ireland, suffering with an eating disorder. And as of last year, there was only 3 inpatient beds. I'll just take a minute and let that sink in. How can we get people the help and the treatment they need if we don't have the services, we don't have the structure here for it? And I received inpatient help for my eating disorder back in 2007, I think it was 2007. And I remember going for an appointment to try and get some financial help for inpatient treatment because, as we all know, it's extremely expensive. And my inpatient treatment at the time was costing $11,000 for 5 weeks. Now, 5 weeks isn't even that long for inpatient treatment. Personally, I felt that I needed longer, but that's another story. But at the time, it was $11,000 and none of the insurance companies covered it here in Ireland. And I know this is a very similar story for around the world. And I remember going to a psychiatrist at the time within the mental health services here in Ireland. And I remember him asking me what I currently ate. And I understand that this is a part of the way the intake services work, the way that people collect data and information on eating disorders. Do I necessarily agree with it? No. I don't think it matters what I ate. I think it matters how it consumes my mind. But at this time, he wanted to know what I ate. And I told him what I ate. And he told me that it wasn't considered bad enough, less of food. I wasn't considered thin enough at that stage to go for inpatient treatment. Now, I don't want to talk about numbers here or, I don't do that anymore for myself and in my recovery. But I can tell you that I was severely underweight at that stage. And it was surprising the amount of people who knew me and told me that I looked great. And it wasn't like I had just lost weight, as in that I did look great. I was emancipated. I was so thin at this stage that I had been hospitalized twice. I had lost my period for about 2 years at this stage, and people were not only telling me that I looked great, but then a psychiatrist was telling me that I wasn't thin enough to get help. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to talk about today is if people are looking for help, we should be getting the help. We shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be decided by some man in a doctor's office who tells me whether he thinks I'm sick enough to get help. And all these other people that have different eating disorders, that maybe you can't physically see, like bulimia and binge eating. Typically, bulimics are of a quote unquote normal weight, typically. So if they go to their doctor and they're struggling and they're looking for help, does that mean that they aren't thin enough to get it? Meant that back when I was looking for help. And I suppose I also want to touch on today, like a little bit about what an eating disorder is from my point of view. I always get asked, what did I eat when I was at my worst? How thin did I get? And all of these things to me are kind of irrelevant. People want to know I was very, very thin. I, was extremely thin for my height. But what is too thin in someone's opinion? What it was for me was this constant voice in my head, this constant voice like another person, that the voice got louder and stronger to the point where I couldn't control it. And what I saw in the mirror wasn't what everybody else saw. And it got more restrictive, and it was everything about my life. It took over my life. It literally dictated what I did, not just what I ate, but everything, what I saw, what I thought, everything. And the biggest takeaway for me, so I'm a mum, I have 4 lovely children, and the biggest thing that I think now after recovering from an eating disorder is that I really wished, for everybody else, myself included, that how we speak to our children is so important. How we speak about ourselves in front of our children is so important. We as women especially, this goes for men too, but especially as women, we tend to say, do I look fat in this? Do I look big in this? How does this look on me? I hate my stretch marks. I'm too this, I'm too that. And we don't think that our little girls, our little boys, our children are listening to that. How can we teach them to love themselves if we don't love ourselves? How can we show our children that it's okay to be unique, that you don't have to look like a mold like everyone else, that we are all different weights naturally. We're different skin tones, we're different hair colors, we're all different. We all have physical attributes that perhaps we don't necessarily like, but they're ours. For example, I have never loved my teeth. I'm conscious about my teeth. And yet everyone has always told me that I have a lovely smile. And I have to choose to listen to the other people and not that voice in my head, because I still have body dysmorphia and I can still pick things on my body that I don't like and kind of focus in on them. So instead of like picking on my weight and restricting my food, still to this day I will pick things on my body and dislike them, and focus and obsess a little bit about them. And I know that about myself, so I have to take charge of that when it happens and tell myself, stop it, because I don't want to pass on these things to my children. I want them to be unique, happy human beings, and whatever size their vessel is that they're currently living in, their body that they have, to accept the things about ourselves. And I started this yoga channel because, as I've said before, yoga has really helped me. And it's one of the things that's really helped me. There's been lots of things, but this is one thing that I think I can share with people. I also want to use this channel for discussions and talks, and I am hoping to get professionals on to speak in the future. Maybe one day, that's my hope. I'm manifesting, I'm putting it out there. But yeah, you know, like I think yoga is one way that I can help people and to kind of connect in with their body and view it differently. You know, view it from a place of love and a place of gratitude. Because the thing is that, you know, we are able to do things that maybe someone else can't do. And I know I have the daughter who's physically disabled, and she used to be able to walk. She had an illness and she's left disabled, but you know, I have to be so grateful for my body that I can stand, that I can do yoga, that I can run, I can swim. Like my body's not letting me down anymore because I'm taking care of it now. And I have to be so grateful for what I was given. And we have to take care of our bodies, because I believe that an eating disorder of any kind is self-harm to a degree. You know, and we're either stuffing our feelings down, or we're refusing, denying our body the fuel it needs to live, or we're purging and giving that self-punishment side of things. And really, you know, this body is what's going to carry us through our life, and we need it to be fit and strong and loved and cared for. Like emotionally, the cells in your body feel what you think about it and how you talk about it and how you treat it. It's a whole thing. It's the body, the mind, the spirit. It's not just physical. So we need to try and talk nicely to ourselves, you know, eat nourishing food, eat things that just your body needs for fuel. It's not about calories, it's not about how much you can get in, it's not about how much you can keep out. It just needs to be fueled. And we need to love ourselves and be grateful, and we need to show our kids that we love ourselves and that we're grateful, and they should too, and they can too. I'm going to come on again at some stage and chat a bit more. So if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, or I even hope this was helpful today. I'm new to speaking like this, so forgive me if it's not, you know, it's not very put together that well, but I'm passionate about it, and I feel like I have something to say and I need to say it. So please feel free to comment if you'd like me to speak about any topic at all to do with eating disorder recovery, or my journey some more. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for checking out any of my videos. And if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe, that would really help me a lot. So thank you so much again. See you next time. Namaste.